yes, I am entering my 50th year as of today. So first day of my 50th year. But I want to thank you guys and Maya for the invitation today. It's so much fun for me to be in New York City. Like, I'm inspired by tall buildings, it turns out. So if you don't know me, I'm an SEO guy. I run an SEO agency. I think about SEO in the shower. I talk to my friends about SEO incessantly. And when they get tired of hearing it, I get new friends. That's just the way that I roll. So can I start out with a weird story? Okay. So a while back, my phone rang, and it was a long number, so I assumed it was like overseas, something like that. And I didn't pick it up, because I don't pick up numbers I don't recognize. But it called again, and whoever it was called again, so eventually I picked it up. And what I heard was this Nordic accent, and his name was Olaf, but not the snowman, you have to know the movie. But he was the CEO of a $50 million e-commerce brand that sells iPhone cases online. And when he told me, he said, "Dale, I heard you're really good at SEO, and we're losing traffic. It has nothing to do with AI overviews or what a lot of people are seeing. And I need you to take a look at my website and figure this out." So I love a good SEO detective project, right? So I dug into it. What I saw was that they had perfect meta titles, page titles, keyword targeting, backlinks, everything that you could want for SEO. So I couldn't figure out what was wrong. So I turned to my new best friend, and you guys are going to admit that you've done this too, ChatGPT, for a lifeline. Like, you know, throw me a life preserver here, I don't know what's going on. And what I asked it was, would you buy an iPhone case from, and then fill in the name of the brand, because I don't want to out them. And what it told me in response changed my thinking about AI search and SEO and content marketing going forward. What it told me was that if you buy an iPhone case from this company, you might not get the product that you ordered, you might not get anything at all. And if you call their 800 number, nobody's going to pick up. It's just going to ring and ring and ring. So it turns out that this iPhone case e-commerce brand, they didn't have an SEO problem. They had a reputation problem. And AI and their customers had caught up with them. They treated their customers like crap. And everybody in here, you know that you've had that experience with a brand, where you lose trust in that brand, and you lose trust in online shopping altogether. So for the customers that you guys are targeting with the websites you're building or the marketing campaigns that you're running, they've had that experience too. What it means is they trust ChatGPT more than they trust your brand. More than what they write, whatever it is you're writing on your website, the carefully crafted message. And that's a hard pill to swallow, but everybody in this room is human, or most of us at least. Like, you do the same thing. Even though AI can hallucinate, we trust it. So now what we all have to figure out is, well, how do we influence AI search so that when it's in conversation with our customers, it says the right thing, accurate messaging coming from my brand, not my competitors, and it's not hallucinating and just making things up. I'm going to grab my, there we go, that helps. So, hi, I'm Dale Bertrand. I think we already went through that part. And you guys are wondering, who am I? Like, I have a technical background, studied computer engineering undergrad, so I was a software developer for a while. 15 years ago, I moved over to marketing. When I moved over to marketing, everybody wanted me to do SEO because I studied AI in grad school. And then built a supercomputer for the NSA. And if you wanted to tell that story over a beer, it was spying on everybody. That was when I was working on it. Yes, well, I know, no, actually. And then I run my agency, and we have a bunch of clients. All of our clients have logos. That's the humble brag. So if you were to go to Google and type in, maybe you're searching for a CRM because you're a contractor that builds houses. Old school search, the way it worked, is it might pull up a page that has these keywords on the page in the title. That's what we're all expecting. That's called lexical search, looking for keywords on pages. That's the old way. Like, no search engines work this way anymore, even traditional Google search, let alone AI search. Nowadays, what a search engine would do is it would look for pages that match the intent behind the query, not keywords in the query. So instead of sales CRM, it might find a page with the title lead tracker. And it doesn't talk about contractors, it talks about builders because that's the same thing. And this makes sense. It's called semantic search. What search engines are doing, even traditional Google search, is trying to figure out, well, what is the intent? What are they really looking for? And what pages, what information match that intent that is different from keyword search? Yet, marketers are still doing keyword research, and we'll talk about that. Oh, this is the library in my town in Milton, Massachusetts. If you ever visit the library, well, look me up and visit the library. It's a beautiful place. What they have in the basement still is a card catalog. Anybody old enough that you've ever actually used it? Okay, so I'm not the only one. I'm in my 50th year here, and I remember using the card catalog before there was a computer in the library. They have it in the basement, nobody uses it, but if I were looking for a book on French cooking, it would tell me where to find that book. The third floor, on room number 12, on shelf 6A. And what I know, because I've used the card catalog before, is the way libraries work. The way libraries work, they shelve books that are similar to each other on the same shelf. So they're close to each other, they're close in proximity. That makes sense. And this is a layout of one of the floors generated by the way, so it's mostly accurate. All of the cookbooks are in the same room. If I were to take two cookbooks on French cooking, they would be near each other on the same shelf. But if I were comparing a children's book and a cookbook, well, they're going to be in different rooms. They're just going to be farther apart. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because this is the way vector embeddings work and semantic search works on the web, where you can take the meaning of one word, maybe the word dog, and then another image that is a picture of a dog, and calculate vector embeddings, and what AI would see is that they are physically close to each other. So they must have similar meaning, even though one's a word, dog, text, and the other one's an image of a dog. But we know as humans, well, wait a minute, they're actually the same thing. And that's how AI does it. So you can imagine another example here. This is somebody who goes to AI search and tries to say, Dyson air purifier. So, sorry, are Dyson air purifiers good for our use? And what the AI will do is calculate one of these vector embeddings and figure out where in this multi-dimensional space this question lives. And then it will find pages and passages and information online that is close by, that is near in proximity. And I was just practicing to see if the microphone was going to work. I can shout if needed, so that's fine. So it will find information that is nearby in this vector space, this semantic space. Stuff like allergies, asthma, HEPA filter, clean air, and air filter, because these are concepts that are close by. So using a ranking engine, old school, this is when you used to use Google and it would give you 10 new links. It's like going to the library and the librarian handing you 10 books. You read the books and you find the answers. Versus generative search, if you're using AI Overviews or ChatGPT or Google's AI Overviews. It's like the librarian reading the books for you and giving you the answer. Because that's so much easier, because we're all human and lazy, because the customers that you guys are targeting are human and lazy, and I'm sorry to basically say not so great things about humans in the world, but I am one of them, so I feel the same way. Even though AI hallucinates, they're still going to trust it because that's easier than questioning it. So what have the learnings since we've been doing generative optimization for generative engines and AI search is that GEO traffic converts better, although the exact amount is unclear. We took a look and did a study in the healthcare industry, and we found that the traffic over the last year to these websites was down by 40% on average. But their conversion rate was up by 60%, making up for it. So they're actually getting more revenue because more of the right traffic is going to their website. Now, it's important to think about how customer journeys are evolving. Like your customers, when they're searching for your product or service. So when they have a problem that your product or service can address, with traditional search, they would start to search by looking for information, maybe about CRMs for contractors or Nike men's running shoes, whatever it is. And they would land on your website, maybe a blog that's like top of the funnel informational content. Then from there, you have the opportunity to cookie them for retargeting or get their email address, and then that's like middle of their journey. Then eventually you send them to a sales page, and that's how you would make the sale. The key difference here for generative AI search when your customers are using ChatGPT or Google's AI overviews is that at the top of the funnel, when they're looking for information about their problem, they are not landing on your website. They're getting it directly from Google. So you're just not seeing that traffic. But you do have the opportunity to create mid-funnel content that can get them to your website instead of the top-of-funnel informational blog articles that we all have been doing for a while. And mid-funnel content looks like comparison pages, FAQs, product pages, collection pages on e-commerce websites, or landing pages with information about your products and services. But that's different from a top-of-funnel informational blog article because you're going after searchers who have already been educated about your type of product or service by AI. So we're creating a different type of content. What I call that is moving down funnel with your content, the new content that you're publishing. And a lot of times when we're working with brands, what we're really doing is optimizing their existing content to move that down funnel. And then get them to the sales page. But this is the new customer journey here. This is the case study I just told you about, where we saw that organic traffic was down by 40%. The conversion rate was also down, but the number of conversions was slightly down, but the conversion rate was up, and this is what matters because we can do more. If these brands can do more the AI search optimization that I'm going to be talking about today, they can take advantage of the fact that the conversion rate is higher from AI search. And the reason the conversion rate is higher is because of exactly what I told you, is that when they come to your website, they're already educated by AI. They're already qualified. Now, many of us are losing sleep if you're in marketing or you do SEO because traffic is going down. So we're thinking about AI search as stealing our traffic. But what's really going on, and I invite you to reframe the way you think about it as I finish up my presentation here, what's really going on is that AI is qualifying visitors for you. AI is screening and filtering traffic. If somebody goes to AI and they're asking about, let's say, how to change a bag in their vacuum cleaner. I don't even know if vacuum cleaners have bags anymore. But if somebody's asking about that, you might sell vacuum cleaners. And they, in the old type of journey with traditional search, they might end up on your blog article about how to change a bag in a vacuum cleaner. The problem with that is they have zero intent to buy a vacuum cleaner. So their value to you is pretty low, except for the fact that they already own a vacuum cleaner and don't need a vacuum cleaner if that's the type of person you want to go after. The type of intent that is valuable to you is someone who's searching for the type of product or business that you sell. Somebody who types in Dyson air purifying vacuum cleaners or something like that. That is purchase intent. Those are the people that you want to come to your website. So all of that traffic you were getting to your top of funnel blog articles, most of it was not very valuable in the first place. And the type of traffic you're losing from AI is that traffic that does not have the right intent. The intent that is misaligned with the product or service that you're trying to sell. And there's my arrow. So AI mode. So AI mode, if anybody used AI mode in Google, we expect AI mode in Google to be the default Google experience in the next 6 to 9 months. That means that your traffic will get cut in half again, and what I'm saying here will be even more valuable. But AI traffic converts at a higher rate because AI is educating your prospects for you. Also, it's handling objections, and you need to educate AI on how to handle objections, how to do that filtering and qualification. And it's steering the right intents to your website, the purchase intents, not the information intents. And also, AI is trusted. Like, your customers trust AI even though it looks things because they're amazing engineers. Another thing that we learned is that AI, GEO, optimizing for AI search engines, is harder than SEO because it's probabilistic. You don't just achieve the #1 ranking and then work hard to keep it. You're working hard to get mentioned as often as possible. And you have to work hard to measure that to figure out like how often you are being mentioned. But old school GEO was great for traffic acquisition. And most of the traffic you were acquiring was worthless to you. We just didn't talk about that very much. GEO, when you're optimizing for AI search, is best for customer acquisition. We're not using traffic and ranking metrics to determine success. We're using revenue, conversion, and customer growth, customer acquisition metrics to measure success. And that's the key. If your traffic is flowing, you go to your manager and say, wait a minute, I thought you hired me to grow the business. I thought you hired me to be a growth marketer, not a vanity marketer. I thought you hired me to build a website that performed well on growth metrics, not a website that performed well on vanity metrics, which is rankings and traffic. So use GEO primarily for visibility and reputation and measure customer acquisition. So brand visibility is all about getting your brand mentioned in AI conversations. And when someone's asking AI about your brand, the messaging is accurate. And then reputation management is the same thing, like the story I told you when we just started. Another learning for us is that GEO is a content strategy discipline. The big takeaway there is you want to build content that is relevant to the questions that your customers are asking when they're making a buying decision. And I'm going to talk a little more about that. I love this case study because Wei Zhang is the first person I met who was getting most of her customers from ChatGPT. What she did was, instead of keyword research, like old school SEO, was she found, she used her product database for the e-commerce products that she was selling to come up with very specific topics for content, and then generated content that was optimized for conversion. She generated it with AI. And one example of that piece of content, and remember these are blog articles, but they're not top of funnel blog articles, they're mid-funnel blog articles. And they're designed to teach AI. One of the headlines was watches that automatically update time zone when traveling west from Europe to the US, like very specific. She generated a lot of these, and instead of keyword research, she used the product database to figure out what those very specific product titles were going to be. Now the next case study here, I'm just giving you guys examples. I met Jason Liu in Austin, Texas at a GEO conference. And he was also one of the first people I met who was getting most of his customers from ChatGPT. And he was doing something similar. He sells software for recruiting that will manage resumes if you're hiring people. And he has a blog on his website with a bunch of articles. And what he did was similar to what Wade was doing, except he found a subreddit on Reddit for recruiters and HR professionals, and he basically scraped that to find these micro topics. And one of the topics that he wrote about, 500 blog articles that were generated by AI, was 5 key questions to ask during a registered nurse behavioral interview, like very specific. The goal with this type of strategy, and I just want to give you guys some examples, and I'll talk a little bit more about how to optimize your existing content. But the goal is to basically create content that occupies a unique space in this semantic space, this vector space, because its meaning is so unique, so that when one of these potential customers is in conversation with AI, his information comes up, his brand is mentioned, and he gets a source link that's clickable, and it's actually working for him. So another learning for us was to focus on ChatGPT and Google. There are other AI platforms like Perplexity and other ones I can't think of. Claude, which I love, I use it every day, but don't focus on those because that's not where your customers are. So this is like ChatGPT's usage, like it's exploding. ChatGPT is winning and running away with it when it comes to consumer AI adoption. So that's why we focus on ChatGPT. You guys should definitely be looking at your ChatGPT referral traffic to figure out if your customers are using ChatGPT at all. But in addition to that, we also see that Google's handling a lot more searches than ChatGPT. Like I think Google's going to win at the end of the day. But still, you need to be focused on ChatGPT, AI Overviews, and Google's AI mode for the optimization that you're doing for AI search. Another learning is that we should use LLMs as a market research tool. Now, I had this experience at the same GEO conference where Anthropic CTO was presenting, and he was talking about their AI and how it's working. And one of the things he said is we have a BS detector. And if one of your pages is very thin or it feels like marketing content, our BS detector will trigger and we will just ignore it. And it won't be used to train AI and it won't appear in conversation, in our AI conversations. So after the talk, I went up to Nick and I said, hey, I'm a marketer. So that means I'm responsible for some of this BS that you're trying to filter out. I need to learn a little bit more about this BS detector. Like what type of content is it looking for and filtering out? And he said, Dale, I'm going to do you a favor and I'm not going to answer that question. Instead, I think you should bring that question to Claude, because Claude is the BS detector. And that's when it clicked for me in my head. I started doing SEO 20 years ago. And back then, I worked really hard to get a #1 ranking. If I did, I could make some money, pay my rent the next month. But I never had the opportunity because of the way the technology worked. I couldn't go to Google and say, I'm #2, I want to be #1, what should I do differently? Or be able to go to Google back then and say, I optimized the heck out of this page, but it's not working, what am I doing wrong? With AI and AI search and optimizing for AI search engines, you can go to GPT-5 when you're optimizing for ChatGPT, or you can go to Gemini when you're optimizing for Google. And you can ask it, does this feel like fluffy marketing content that you're going to ignore? Or why does this page over here get cited more than mine does? Or what can I do to make this page more recommendable by AI? And that was a huge realization for me that unlocked a lot of good work. Now, I'll give you some examples here. So I might go to ChatGPT and say, what related topics should I include in my article about commercial water filtration systems? Or maybe I work for the Purina dog food company and I say, what do customers think of Purina dog food? Remember, AI is trained on everything on the web, including product reviews and what customers are writing online. And then I might ask it, give me the top 5 pet food brands. And it'll give me 5 brands. And then I'll say, well, wait a minute, how come Purina isn't on this list? And it'll tell you what's wrong with your website, your content, or your reputation, which is huge. So now I want to talk real quickly about the zero-click marketing strategy gap. So this is how you need to update your thinking, your mindset around AI in order to generate the right content or optimizing existing content. So I have a friend with a beautiful young daughter, and I was doing a marketing campaign a while back for a preschool, a chain of preschools. And what we thought was moms would go to the website, look for information, so we were redesigning their website and trying to figure out what copy we should write about and what they cared about. So when I asked her to use my laptop to do her search so I could understand how at least one mom does the search. And what she did really, really surprised me. She didn't go to Google and then go to all the websites for the preschools to figure out the pickup time, the drop-up time, and the curriculum and all that. What she did was she went to Google to find 3 preschools near her, and then she shut her laptop. And she opened up her Facebook app and she went into a mom's group in her town that she's been active in. And she said, hey, what do you think of these 3 preschools? And that was it. She didn't visit a single website. So what I learned was basically what I call the understanding gap, which is in order to do AI search optimization properly. You've got to close this gap. Like, do your customer research. Talk to customers. Maybe you have direct access to customers, maybe you listen to sales conversations, but the better you know your customers, the information you need to make a buying decision, the questions they ask, and what the journey looks like. Are they using ChatGPT? Maybe not. Don't do AI search optimization just because somebody like me mentioned it at a conference. You've got to know. Then there's the relevance gap. This example here is a paragraph on a page somewhere, and I'll read it to you for people who can't see it. It says the Tesla Model 3 long range and the Ford Mustang Mach Premium all-wheel drive are two leading vehicles. So what this gets at is the relevance gap, which is really the disconnect between what you learned when you did your customer research. You know what they're asking, what information you need, but is your content actually relevant to the questions your customers are asking? Because they're asking it pretty much in the dark. You're not going to see those questions in your analytics. They're asking AI overviews, or AI mode, or ChatGPT. That's why we call it zero-click search. So you've got to close this relevance gap, which means making your content more relevant to AI conversations in order for your brand and your content, your messaging to appear. And then the last one is the reputation gap. And we talked about this with the cell phone company story and example, which is that you've got to have a good reputation, and you want information about your brand that's positive to appear in as many places as possible online, so that's what AI learns. AI learns what you do, and AI learns that your customers are happy with what you do, and there's positive brand sentiment around it. So this is the reputation gap, the difference between what you want your audience to know about your brand and what your AI actually learns during its training when it's looking online at your full footprint. It's not just your website, but everything that's written about you everywhere online, even social media. Now, I'm going to give you guys, because I'm not going to have time today to dive deep into our framework for AI search optimization, but I have a framework for AI search. And let me do a time check. How much time do I have?
6 minutes.
6 minutes. So then I'm going to go through a couple more slides. If you grab all of my slides, you'll get my prompts, you'll get my vector framework for optimizing content for AI search. But I want to go through just really quickly here how search works. Sort of very simple, high level. All search engines, even the earliest search engines, what they did was they did their best to predict what you're really asking when you're doing a search. If I'm searching for like ice cream in Boston, well, I must be searching for an ice cream shop. Then they're retrieving the most relevant information, and when that was keyword search, it's just pages with that keyword on it. Then finally what they're doing is they're generating useful results. Maybe 10 blue links, maybe an AI answer. Now what I want to do is show you guys how AI mode works inside Google. AI mode in Google is quite complicated and sophisticated. It starts by understanding your query. If I type in, find me an ice cream restaurant in my house, or something like that, it's going to predict what is Dale really asking for, and it's also going to predict what is the most useful format for the answer. Is it a local map listing? Is it a one-paragraph direct answer? Is it a comparison of pros and cons? It's going to predict that in step number one. And remember, all search engines predict, generate, and retrieve. Under the hood, it's generating vector embeddings for all of those things, but I'll come back to that. Then in step two, it's doing query fan out. This is where it takes my query, where I'm looking for ice cream, and it generates 100 or 200 related queries. So ice cream in Milton, Massachusetts would be one. Another one would be discount ice cream, or ice cream restaurants with parking, or ice cream for kids. It could generate a whole bunch of them. But what that helps it do is to comprehensively answer the question that I'm asking. And it is generating vector embeddings, by the way, for all of those things, which I will come back to. Then from there, it's generating a reasoning chain. The reasoning chain helps it to answer complex queries. If I were to ask ChatGPT's AI mode, help me find a restaurant in Seattle for lunch tomorrow, and it needs to have low lactose or because I'm lactose intolerant. So lactose intolerant meals, and I'm bringing the client, so I don't want it to be too expensive because this is not my best client. That's a complex problem. So what the reasoning chain will do, or the way the reasoning chain will look is something like, first find restaurants in Seattle, then restaurants that are open for lunch, then restaurants with moderate pricing, then restaurants with parking, then restaurants that are open tomorrow. That's a reasoning chain. And it's generating vector embeddings for every stage of that reasoning chain. And the reasoning chain helps mostly with complex queries. Then from there, context understanding. This is where it's personalizing the answer. So I have a software development background, so if I'm asking about a particular computer language like TypeScript, I would expect to get a pretty technical answer compared to my mother, who might be looking for TypeScript, and she might be looking for something completely different, or at least wants a basic answer. So what it's doing is, like, Google knows a lot about us, like where we live. It knows that I have a family, it knows that I run a marketing agency. These are all vector embeddings, once again, that will help it to personalize the answer. Then from there, what it's going to do here is finally build its custom corpus of passages from the web, not pages. What it's doing is it's looking at all the billions of chunks of pages that it indexed when it read the web, not full pages, but chunks on pages, and figuring out which of them are relevant to the vector embeddings. And remember, this is why I taught you guys what a vector embedding was. It's finding the ones that are located nearby the vector embeddings it generated for the prediction of what output I wanted, the vector embeddings for the query variations, the vector embeddings for the reasoning chains, the vector embeddings that it grabbed to personalize the answer. So I look at a bunch of patents, because Google has a patent on this, trying to figure out, well, how large is this custom corpus? And it's in the hundreds of passages that it will collect in the custom corpus. So now that it has passages from the web that are relevant to pretty much every aspect you can imagine from my query or my turn of the conversation. Because remember, this isn't just query response, it's also multi-step conversations. Now that it has that custom corpus that's perfectly relevant to every aspect of the answer it wants to give me, it'll finally generate the answer. And it'll generate the answer in the format that it predicted in the first step would be the most relevant. And it will also generate source links to add on to that answer, clickable links, hopefully to your website if you're doing AI optimization. Now, the reason why I go through this at length with not much time left is because I want you guys to have intuition that generative AI optimization, or GEO, not SEO, is something fundamentally different from information retrieval in old school Google where it was fetching pages. This is not fetching pages. This is synthesizing an answer from a custom corpus of passages, not pages, that are relevant to every aspect of that particular turn of the conversation. Now, when you guys you'll get my slides, you'll get the vector framework, and we'll stop here. But the remaining slides have a bunch of prompts that will be useful to you guys when you're doing optimization, and then also some specifics on how to optimize, like how to verify that you're getting the right intent, how to expand the relevance of your content, and how to make sure your answers are clear so that they are relevant to the conversations that you discover during your customer research. And then optimizing for assembly is all about the structure of your content, because design and structure has semantic meaning that can be basically plotted just like this is how I'm talking about, right? Because the structure of your content has meaning, just like the words in your content have meaning, and that can be plotted in the semantic space. Now that you guys are using semantic space, not keyword space, for the content that you're creating. And then refreshing pages is all about keeping or having the discipline quarterly to keep your most performance, so like the highest priority pages on your website, keeping them fresh by adding new information, new details, because AI search engines like and favor, fresh content, whatever that means for those particular pages. And that's it for me. So thank you.
We have time for questions.
Thank you so much, Dale. We have some time for questions. Does anyone have any questions?
Got one back here, Mr. President.
Yes, first off,
I have a microphone.
I'll speak about it. First off, sir, you don't look a day over 41, so well done. Well
Thank you.
done. Secondly, I would love your candid opinion. Do you believe that automatically embedding the LP plus JSON tag into the content and then recreating long-form into like an FAQ styling blog is helping that FAQ middle of funnel? Are we missing something, or do you?
first of all, if it's working, run with it. What we found is that you're going to have different strategies for different brands, depending on how your customers are searching. Like, don't believe some guy who says that he's an AI search expert. Like, you need to research your customers and experiment with different types of content for your customers. One thing that we've done similar to what you're doing is we'll take blog articles that are already written on the site. We'll use an AI prompt to generate FAQs and just put them at the bottom of the article, like 3 or 4 of them. And those FAQs will have very specific questions that we know our customers are asking because we did our customer research that are answered by that particular page. And a 1 or 2 paragraph concise answer that is very relevant to those conversations. So similar.
And do you believe that that LP JSON tag is critical to inject it in the APO GPO engine?
No.
No.
We do it anyway, just like you're doing it. But what we found is that AI search crawlers aren't really reading those tags directly. They're not parsing them as code. They're looking at them as structure, similar to the words on the page, or maybe a table structure, which is really kind of weird. But so they could help, and sometimes they do, but not always in the way that we think, because they're not being parsed as code.
Thank you, sir, for sharing.
It's very.
Do you think that right now, maybe for a while, there's a window where, for Google anyway, that the GPO stuff might circumvent paid ads? Because you can, like, I get 1, 2, and 3, but if there's 20 ads in front of me, there's still nobody's going to see it. So
Yes.
is the AI going to be first?
So once again, you have to experiment with it because every keyword that you're going to be bidding on, or it is going to be different in terms of what Google's layout, and then also the layout is going to change. So the one thing we know is that Google is always going to get paid. So this is like when I bring my kids to Disney World, I'm like the mouse is going to get paid. So what I mean by that is they're going to optimize the layout of their pages so that they get clicks and they can make money, full stop. But it's just going to keep changing. So we've seen cases where we can get away with AI optimized content that is very relevant to those queries, and then we get clicks even though we're below the ads. But we've seen other cases where it's pay to play for certain, highly purchase intent keywords that are commercial. We've got to pay to get in front of that audience. And in the back.
Wait,
Yes, in the front.
thank you. Hey, I know we're all experts and practitioners, but from a user perspective, I noticed that Google started giving me, from the start, from I don't know, 2000 or whatever, it started being full of answers exactly what I wanted instantly, clean, and it kind of degraded very slowly over time, but now it's kind of shit, right? We all think it's more ads, more spam, more SEO, and again, sorry to the SEO professionals here. Do you think that, so do you think that how fast will the same enshittification happen once the incentives are different now, once those companies try to make money instead of get market share?
Yeah, so marketers ruin the web, the advertising model ruined the web, Google ruined the web, everything that you just said. Right now, we're all enjoying using ChatGPT for free, but that's not going to continue. Like, it will get enshittified by advertising unless there's regulation. What I expect is that there will be paid versions of Google, but most people won't use it. Most people still want the free advertising-driven model. So I am not hopeful. I'm just saying, like, for you and for me, I'm expecting there will be a paid version that is better. If we choose to pay for it. That's my only expectation. Yes.
Do we have any hope? Do we have any hope in getting beyond FAQs? I prefer content in the longer narrative, at least working for an academic institution.
So
How do we
if
get that?
this was my 5-hour workshop, like, I would apologize to you if it was inappropriate. But the types of content we're creating are FAQs, comparison pages. We're doing a lot of like service pages, products and things with the right information on them. And we're doing articles, exactly like you're saying. What matters is that in those articles, you have passages that are specific and highly relevant to the well-researched information that you know your customers need. So the reason why I'm crafting blog articles is so that people stop doing keyword targeting and building out an SEO campaign that is solely focused on like top-of-funnel informational blog content that drives the wrong type of intent, the information that's not conversion intent. But once you wrap your head around how to build content for AI, I don't care if you publish it on your blog, but you really do want to look holistically at many different opportunities to create this type of content. And I'll say one thing that I think is really important. We do a lot of comparison content now. Like if you think about it, like if one of your customers is in conversation with an AI, and they're looking for a product or service that you offer, eventually they might get down to like, okay, 2 brands, you and a competitor. When they get to that part of the conversation, the information you would expect AI to give them is your carefully crafted message on your website and the same messaging on the competitor's website. But if somebody publishes a comparison piece of content, it could be your competitor that publishes comparison content, comparing your brand to the competitor. That page will be much more relevant to that turn of the conversation than your carefully crafted messaging on your homepage. So now, because your competitor published a comparison piece and you didn't, the information is coming from your competitor, not from you. So one of the many reasons why we're doing a lot more comparison content.
One more in the back.
What strategies are unique to GEO that aren't like synonymous with just having a good content strategy? It sounds a lot like what I'm hearing is we don't need to mess so much with the SEO nonsense anymore and just focus on having a good like human-centric content strategy. Is there some aspect or vein of GEO that isn't just write helpful content for human beings?
I agree with you 100%, but I would really shift the focus from, so good content strategy for humans that satisfies real human customer questions and information needs when they're making a buying decision. Absolutely. That's always been the case, even before the internet. Like, content marketing has been a thing before the internet ever existed, in the form of pamphlets and magazines and Revolutionary War newspapers. Like, content marketing is always been a thing. So good content, whatever that means for your target audience, absolutely. But what I would add to it is that a lot of marketers are hiding behind analytics and keyword research and search console. The big difference is that with old school SEO, you could do keyword research and learn enough to craft the right content strategy. Nowadays, you have to equally weigh your analytics and the conversations you're having directly with customers and the monitoring that you're doing of AI search platforms, the right AI search platforms for your audience. If you get that customer research right, then I agree with you. But a lot of people are getting that wrong because they're still just only hiding behind analytics. And what I would say is like, analytics is not marketing. Like, this number goes down so you turn it on. This number goes up so you turn it on. That's not marketing. Talking to your customers, figuring out what they need, understanding their concerns, and figuring out the right way to craft messaging to influence them, and then figuring out where they are online so that you can get that message to them at the right time. That's marketing.
Thank you very much, Dale. One round of applause.